The biggest lump of gold any human being has ever pulled out of the earth was not found deep inside a mine. It was found 2 inches under a dirt road, tangled in the roots of a tree, on ground that thousands of gold miners had already picked over and given up on. It weighed as much as a grown man. It was so big that no scale in town could hold it, so they broke it apart with a blacksmith's hammer. And within days, it was gone, melted, which means the greatest golden object ever found by our species no longer exists. There isn't even a photograph. Today, the 5 biggest gold nuggets ever found. Real finds, real people, and real numbers, counted down from a lump the size of a shoebox to a monster that would be worth $10 million if you dug it up this afternoon. And stay for number 1, because the 2 men who found it had spent years starving on that exact patch of ground, and what happened at the bank that day is the best part of the whole story. First, the rules of this list, because gold people are precise people. A nugget means natural gold. One solid piece, formed by the earth, found by a person. Not bars, not treasure, not coins. And the wild thing about nuggets is that almost none of the big ones survive. Gold has no memory. Melt a legendary nugget, and it becomes identical to every other bar in a vault. So this list is also a countdown of close calls. Some of these survived by luck, and the biggest one didn't survive at all. Every weight and price you're about to hear is documented. Let's dig. Number 5. California, 1977. More than a century after the California gold rush, everyone knew the easy gold was gone. 49ers had turned the state inside out. What was left, supposedly, was dust and stories. A prospector named Ty Paulson didn't fully believe that. He worked the Mojave Desert, in the Stringer district near the old mining town of Randsburg, with a metal detector, sweeping ground that had been walked for 100 years. And one day the machine screamed. Under that desert crust was a single piece of gold weighing 156 troy ounces. Nearly 11 pounds. The Mojave Nugget, the largest ever found in California that still exists. At today's gold prices, that's roughly $500,000, found with a tool you could buy at a hardware store. But here's the detail I love. The Mojave Nugget was never melted, and it was never hidden in a vault. It ended up in a private collection, and that collector donated it to the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, where it sits today, in public, behind glass. $500,000 of luck, given away so everyone could see what the desert was still hiding in 1977. And if an 11-pound nugget sounds unbeatable, number 4 more than doubles it, and it was found with one of the cheapest metal detectors ever sold. Number 4. Mexico, 1989. In the Sonoran Desert, about 70 miles south of the US border, a local prospector bought a metal detector from Radio Shack. Not a professional rig, the kind of machine serious gold hunters would laugh at. He took it out into one of the emptiest, hottest deserts in North America and started walking. What he found, sitting in that sand, was a piece of gold shaped like a boot. 10 3/4 inches tall, 383 troy ounces, 26 pounds of nearly 98% pure gold. They named it the Boot of Cortez, after the conquistador who tore Mexico apart looking for exactly this and never found anything like it. 400 years of empires, armies, and mining companies scoured that country for gold. The biggest single piece anyone ever found in the entire Western Hemisphere that still exists was found by one man, alone, with a discount store gadget. In 2008, the boot went to auction and sold for $1.3 million. It has traded hands among collectors since, with opening bids north of $1 million. Every serious mineral collection on the planet knows exactly where that boot is at all times. The Boot of Cortez is the biggest surviving nugget in our half of the world. To beat it, we have to cross the Pacific, to a country that plays by different rules. Number 3 is more than twice the size, and it was underground for millions of years until a man found it because his family prayed about where to look. Number 3. Australia, 1980. Victoria's Golden Triangle is the nugget capital of Earth. The gold rush of the 1850s pulled entire cities out of its dirt. By 1980, small towns like Canaã were quiet places where hobbyists swung metal detectors over ground that had been worked and reworked and abandoned. Kevin Hillier was one of them. He and his family had a habit some people found odd. They prayed about where to search. And near Canaã, on the morning of September 26, 1980, his detector gave a signal over ground anyone else would have walked past. 12 inches down, Hillier hit gold. The nugget was standing on end, vertical in the earth, its fingers of gold pointing upward, which is why it became the Hand of Faith. 875 troy ounces. 60 pounds of solid gold, 1 foot under the surface. The Hand of Faith is still the largest gold nugget ever found with a metal detector anywhere, ever. Let that sink in. The record for the entire hobby was set in 1980, a foot deep in ground the professionals had abandoned a century earlier. Now, what do you do with a 60-pound nugget? The Hilliers did the sensible thing. They sold it. And the buyer tells you everything about what legendary gold is really worth. Not a museum, not a bank. The Golden Nugget Casino, which paid over $1 million, call it $4 million in today's money, to put the Hand of Faith in its lobby in Las Vegas. It's still there. A prayer, a beep, and a foot of dirt. And the result has been watching people lose money in Nevada for 45 years. Number 2 is more than double the Hand of Faith. And it comes from the most insane gold mine in modern history, a hole in the jungle dug by 80,000 people with shovels. Number 2. Brazil, 1983. In 1979, on a remote farm in the state of Pará, someone found gold in a stream. What happened next has no parallel in the modern world. Within months, tens of thousands of ordinary Brazilians, teachers, taxi drivers, farmers, dropped everything and came to a place called Serra Pelada, Bald Mountain. There were no machines. The government wouldn't allow them. So 80,000 men dug an open pit by hand with shovels and pickaxes, hauling every sack of mud out on their backs, up wooden ladders lashed to the pit walls. Photographs from Serra Pelada look like nothing else on Earth, a canyon made of people, a human anthill the size of a stadium, everyone caked in the same grey mud, everyone digging for the same thing. Each miner worked to claim a few meters square. Millimeters of dirt separated men who got rich from men who got nothing. And in 1983, in that chaos, a miner named Julio de Deus Filho dug his shovel into his little square and hit the largest gold nugget that exists on Earth today. The Pepita Canaã. 134 pounds. 60.8 kilograms, over 52 of them pure gold. And here's the astonishing part. Witnesses said it broke off an even larger mass that shattered as they pulled it free. The biggest surviving nugget on the planet may be a fragment. By law, Serra Pelada miners sold their gold to the Brazilian government at a fixed price. So the Pepita Canaã went to the state, and today it sits in the gold room of the Central Bank's Money Museum in Brasilia, behind glass, the crown jewel of a nation. Gold content alone, at today's prices, over $5 million. And Julio, the man whose hands pulled it out of the mud, the records mostly lose track of him. 80,000 men dug that hole. History kept the nugget and misplaced the man. That happens more than you'd think in gold country, and it's about to happen again at number 1 to 2 men who deserved better luck than they got. Except this time, we know exactly what happened to them. Number 1. Australia, 1869. The biggest gold nugget ever found by human beings. Moliagul, Victoria. The same golden triangle as the Hand of Faith, but a century earlier, at the tail end of the Great Victorian Gold Rush. The easy gold was gone. The crowds had moved on. What remained were tributers. Miners scraping worked over ground for wages that barely bought flour. John Deason and Richard Oates were 2 of them. Cornish immigrants, digging that same district for over a decade with almost nothing to show for it. By February 1869, they were, by every account, close to broke. On February 5th, Deason was breaking soil around the roots of a stringy bark tree, ground within sight of a road, ground thousands of men had crossed. 2 inches down, his pick slammed into something that stopped his arm dead. He thought it was stone. He cleared the dirt. It was gold. Not a vein. Not a pocket. One single continuous mass of gold. 241 pounds gross. So heavy, the 2 men could barely move it. They named it the Welcome Stranger, which might be the greatest understatement in mining history. Now, the part I promised you. They hauled it into the town of Dunolly, to the London Chartered Bank, and the bank could not weigh it. No scale in town went that high. So the largest gold nugget in human history was carried to a blacksmith, laid on an anvil, and broken into pieces so it would fit on the scales. People stood in the street and watched the record of all records get hammered apart on the day it was found. The bank paid Deason and Oates roughly £9,400, several working lifetimes of wages in one afternoon. The two men who had starved on that ground for a decade walked out wealthy. Both settled nearby, bought land, and lived out quiet, comfortable lives. No curse, no ruin. Just two broke miners who finally got paid. The nugget itself got no such ending. Within days it was melted and shipped to the Bank of England as anonymous ingots. It happened so fast that nobody ever photographed it whole. Every picture you have ever seen of the welcome stranger is a replica or a reenactment. Its refined gold, over 3,100 ounces, would be worth around $10 million today, and as a surviving object, the most famous nugget on Earth, it would be beyond price. It exists nowhere. The biggest one ever found survives only as a story. So here's the thread running through all five. The Mojave Nugget, picked over desert. The Boot of Cortez, a discount detector. The Hand of Faith, 12 inches down in abandoned ground. And the biggest of them all, 2 inches underground that thousands of miners walked across, complaining there was nothing left. The biggest finds in history didn't come from going deeper. They came from someone refusing to believe the ground was empty. Last video, a couple found $10 million on a path they'd walked for years. Today, the largest nugget ever found was 2 inches under a road. The lesson never changes. The earth is patient, and it is not done paying out. Next time. The luckiest metal detector finds in history, including a farmer who found 2,000-year-old treasure while looking for a lost hammer. Subscribe so you don't miss it.